welcome to another series of our popular webinar, Invest Nest. Today, it's the Lithium Talk with Lithium Australia and Alchemy Resources. I'm Rachel, I'll be your moderator for today's event. Now, before we do start the session, let me just inform everyone that this webinar is for informational purposes only. It's not a solicitation or recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock of the companies or engage in any investment activity under discussion. We're neither licensed nor qualified to provide investment advice through this platform. So with that, let us get started with today's webinar. Now, if you've had your eyes on lithium for a while, we may have seen that Tesla CEO Elon Musk has stated that lithium batteries are the new oil. Thanks to energy storage needs stemming from electronic devices or electric vehicles, demand is rising and many lithium mining players are securing long-term contracts to make the best of these promising dynamics. Now, on the back of such positive tailwinds, prices of lithium and its compounds have remained firm. All eyes are on players operating in the space as the world increasingly focuses on transitioning to green energy. Now, joining me today are two ASX players and Kalkine Media's value clients. Chief Financial Officer of Lithium Australia, Mr. Stuart Tarrant, and Chief Executive Officer of Alchemy Resources, Mr. James Wilson. So, firstly, let's move to our first speaker of the day, Stuart Tarrant. Now, Stuart is a qualified finance professional with over 20 years of experience within multiple industries, including mineral exploration and extraction, also financial institutions and agribusiness. His specific expertise includes fundraising, strategic analysis, governance, and compliance, with a focus on value creation. Now, Lithium Australia Limited has a ticker code LIT and is committed to furnishing ethically and sustainably sourced materials to the global battery industry. The ASX-listed company aspires to close the loop on the energy metal cycle through its disruptive technologies. The company has also secured positions in lithium provinces in different parts of the world. That includes Australia, North America, and Europe. So welcome to Kalkine Media's Invest Nest webinar, Stuart.
Thanks, Rachel. And thanks everyone for joining us. Hopefully you can see that presentation now come up on the screen.
Excellent. We're very excited to go through your presentation with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone for joining. Really pleased to give you a bit of an update. Today, I'll give an overview of what we're all about, and I'll focus on one of our key opportunities here in Australia. So the usual disclaimer for any information that we put out. So what is Lithium Australia all about? We're very much a downstream operator and manufacturer of critical materials. We have two key facets of our business. One is EnviroStream. That is a wholly owned recycling business based in Victoria. We lead the battery recycling space here in Australia. Really exciting position for us to be in. A lot of the materials that we expect to get out of the ground can be synthesized from old batteries, and that's where we're focused. And that will be the focus of our presentation. So I won't give too much detail about that side of the business just now. The other side of the business that we're pushing is cathode powders. So again, downstream processing, production of lithium ferrophosphate cathode powders in a world where China dominates global supply chains. For us, we're looking to decouple that dominance, ride the winds behind us in terms of demand for these materials going into the future. We're in a process of a DFS and looking to commercialize that facility in around about 2026. So just for today, given the timeline we've got, I think it's worth us focusing on our EnviroStream business, our battery recycling business. So again, we lead the battery recycling industry here in Australia. What you see on the screen here is one of our facilities. That's a sorting line. So we receive lots of different types of batteries, and we had to move them into different chemistries. And I'll take you through some of the reasons for that. So the opportunity for us, if you consider what we all do as individuals, we consume things and we tend to put it in the bin. So currently, the biggest competitor for EnviroStream is landfill. So I would ask you all to stop putting batteries into the bin. That's a fire risk in itself, and you're damaging the environment. Please put them in a lot of collection points around the country, and they should come through to us. At the moment, only about 9%, 10% of lithium-ion batteries are recycled in Australia, which is pretty damning. Now, we recycle the majority of that volume, which is very, very good. As I said, we lead the industry, and it's a 20% compound annual growth rate expected for lithium-ion batteries as a whole. But yeah, we want to turn that 9% into 90% so that we can recycle more batteries and divert waste from landfill. Looking at how we can do this, it really comes down to partners. There was a stewardship scheme that kicked off earlier on this year. In fact, in January 2022, this scheme is there to keep the industry honest, really. So we receive money from the scheme for collecting batteries, for sorting batteries, and for processing batteries. And really, what this scheme does is, as batteries are imported into the country, they charge a level. So great revenue line for us, and a great way of encouraging battery manufacturers to ensure that batteries are recycled. Looking at our 5 steps for the business, the first one is collection, and probably the thing that most people don't understand around lithium-ion batteries is there's a significant fire risk with these. So you have to be able to collect and transport these batteries in a very sustainable way. We've developed a lot of technologies over the last few years in conjunction with EPA and fire advisors. And it's really driven a lot of confidence around the sustainable way we're developing our organisation through the country. And what that really does is it enables us to tie up very big brands that are on the screen at the moment from a collection perspective. So, in every Bunnings store, if you go down and get your power tool, you can drop your old battery off for your old power tool. So please do that. You can take your alkaline batteries down there. It's the same for Officeworks and Battery World. For LG Energy Solutions, they tend to do the bigger batteries. And so what you'll find there is, your energy storage system in your home might be an LG battery. We've just secured a minimum of 250 tonnes of lithium-ion batteries from LG Energy Solutions. So that really is a significant change in our organisation. And then on the right-hand side, you look at the other EV manufacturers and energy storage manufacturers. If there's an EV manufacturer in this country and there's a battery that needed to be recycled, it's highly likely we've recycled it. So we know how to manage these batteries, we know how to get them to us, we know how to dismantle them, we know how to get all of the elements out of those batteries to ensure that we can commoditize as much of it as possible and then recycle that content. Storage is very similar to collection. So you see there down in that bottom left-hand corner, that's some proprietary designs firewalls that we have at one of our facilities. Really important for lithium-ion batteries to store them safely. Thermal runaway risk is a big concern. It's one of the reasons why when you get on a flight, you're asked where your mobile phone is, and if you drop your mobile phone, they don't want you to try and get it out of your seat. So that's all about the fire risk. And so we've developed these systems. It's enabled us to get a 99-year license through the Victorian EPA, which is not a small feat, and really just gives us the capability now of processing much higher volumes than we have in the past. In terms of the sorting of the batteries, so when you go down to Bunnings, you get a lot of mixed batteries, as you can see there in that middle picture on the conveyor. We take those out. It's a semi-automated process, but effectively, from very good eyes over the batteries that go past, we'll be able to sort out between your alkaline batteries from your NiCad batteries to your lithium-ion batteries. So sorting that into chemistry is really important from a safety perspective, but also from a processing perspective. So focusing on lithium-ion batteries here, we're able to split out the steel and the copper and the aluminium and other parts of the battery to recycle them. We're very proud that we recycle more than 90% of every lithium-ion battery that we get. What we've really focused on here is the mixed metal dust or black mass that comes out of the lithium-ion batteries. We're able to then concentrate the nickel, cobalt, and other active metals within the battery. We sell it on to our international partners. In this, as you can see there, it's pretty boring color, unfortunately, but that's just the graphite. Sorry, not the graphite. Sorry, yeah, it is a graphite in the anode that creates this. This color. We sell that off to refiners internationally, and they're able to turn that into a refined product. They sell it onto the battery industry, and you get this true circularity through what we're doing. So, we are really changing the world here. Our job is to grow this business as quickly as possible. Our operations are based in Melbourne, but over the next 12 to 18 months and beyond, we'll be looking to grow nationally and internationally, increase our volumes. Above that, 9% of batteries in Australia are being recycled, and increase that through talking to government, local and federal, to change policy. We've got the technology to produce and process more batteries, and really for us, we'll continue to establish those partnerships with the likes of Bunnings and LG Energy Solution, grow this business even further. In terms of just a quick corporate snapshot for us, so we've got a market cap of about $68 million at the moment. We did have cash in the bank of $4.5 million, but we've just raised $12.1 million since June, so that number will increase, so fairly well funded for what we need to do. We have an interesting register. It's quite flat. We've got quite a lot of investors on our register, and for us, we've changed our leadership over quite recently. So Simon Lynch will be joining us in January next year as CEO, but our 3 directors on our board, George, Christy and Phil, provide that balance between all the facets you require for a company of our size to develop through the stages. Supporting the board myself, so I've been with the company just over 12 months now, but the other Andrew, so I am the outlier, they are all experienced in the organisation, very, very experienced, either chemical engineers, or Andrew McKenzie actually started off the EnviroStream business, so really, really pleased to have his knowledge and experience in the company. And then, there's just the references. So, Rachel, that's the end of our presentation. Maybe just pass over to James.
Thank you very much, Stuart. That was a very informative presentation with some sound advice there as well for our viewers. So for our next speaker, we have Chief Executive Officer of Alchemy Resources, Mr. James Wilson. Now, James came to the company in December 2020 as the CEO. He's a geologist with over 16 years experience in the domestic and international markets with exploration and operational roles. He's had exposure to a wide range of resources, including gold, copper, nickel, and uranium. Now, prior to Alchemy, James worked as a senior research analyst in resources for Argonaut Securities for 5 years. Alchemy Resources, with the ticker code ALY, is an Australia-focused exploration company with exposure to gold base metals and nickel cobalt sources. Now, the company is committed to building a portfolio of high-quality mineral resources via innovative exploration and strategic acquisitions. So welcome to Kalkine Media's Invest Nest webinar, James. We're very pleased to have you with us today, and we'd love for you to share your presentation deck with us now.
Thanks, Rachel, and great to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to present today. Okay, well, it's Alchemy. Just a really sort of quick overview of the Alchemy story, including some really exciting developments, including our most exciting sort of lithium discovery that's been on quite a fast track since earlier in 2022. Just the obligatory disclaimer, feel free to read at your leisure. All right, Alchemy, the investment snapshot. We have a portfolio of really exciting projects and quite a lot of them that are value accretive all at the same time at the moment, which is really exciting. Coroni, obviously, our project in Western Australia is where the lithium focus is at the moment, but largely the rest of the portfolio also does have battery metals potential and are very advanced as well. In the Briar, we have 2 joint ventures, one with Sandfire Resources along strike of the DeGrussa copper mine, and a development asset with Hermes South, which is with Superior Gold, and we're hopefully that they'll be actually mining that at some point in the very near future, which will create revenue for Alchemy shareholders. In the Kalkine Basin in New South Wales, we have the Yellow Mountain, Westland and Overflow projects, and it's a mixture of high-grade copper gold and nickel cobalt and high purity alumina resources over there as well. So as I mentioned, the battery metals angle continues into that part of the world too. Our board is made up of a number of very experienced technical and financial personnel. Lindsay Dudfield, he's also the chairman or the executive director of Jindalee Resources. It has the biggest undeveloped lithium asset in the US. I myself, as Rachel outlined, I'm a geologist by background, but I have 20 years experience and formerly an analyst in precious metals and bulks and the base metals in a number of brokers in Western Australia, and also international experience on feasibilities in various commodities offshore and domestically. Liza Kalkine, she's also a former company secretary for Northern Star and current NED of Mincor, which is an exciting new nickel play in Western Australia, if you haven't heard of it. So yeah, our major shareholders, obviously Northern Star at 8.2%. It's a great sort of endorsement of our projects there, that we've got a big major gold producer there as one of our major shareholders, and a number of institutions, and quite well held by board and management. I apologize, my share price graph is a little bit out of date because we're currently sort of trading in the threes, but that's not a bad thing to point out as well. It's that out of date on the downside. So where are we? In Western Australia, we have gold and battery metals projects. Strategically, this project area sits about 110 kilometres east of Kalgoorlie, on the Transaccess Road that supplies the railway from South Australia into Western Australia. It bisects our project, so we've got great roads going in there. It's gold tenure, this project is along the Keith Kilkenny Fault and the Claypan Shear, and it's been historically for probably the last 50, 60 years has been gold. Now, we started looking at, we also are exploring for gold there as well, and the two project names, by the way, is just the Coroni project in the south and also the Lake Rebecca project in the north, and combined that strike extends roughly about 160 kilometres. As you can see, all the pink areas around there are the granites. Now, the granites are important when we're talking about lithium, in that you need to be close to these regional granites to be able to go and form the genesis of these lithium-bearing pegmatites, and we have that in spades on our project area. In particular, the most important project that we're looking at the moment, the flagship area for the lithium, is the Coroni project. As I mentioned, it's been historically gold exploration in this area, and we started accessing our database and mining our existing data to determine whether there's any lithium potential on there in early 2022. And it was quite an exciting development that we saw that there was anomalism throughout the belt. And just six months later, after looking at that, we are targeting drilling this month on our primary lithium bearing pegmatite anomalies at Coroni, and I'll cover off on that now. Up at Lake Rebecca, there's been very little work. There's always been gold exploration up there, and we are now, just after getting those granted with the heritage surveys, we are now looking at actually doing lithium-focused exploration on there, and we're quite excited about the developments that we're finding up there. So literally no exploration for lithium on these projects outside of the Manor project, which is owned by Global Lithium Resources in the middle there. So I'll cover off on these now. So just looking at Coroni, where we were in the south, it's a bit of a sort of a jumbled up map here, but I'll explain what it means. The purple areas is the granites, as I said before, and the green areas is what we like to call the Goldilocks zone. Now, the Goldilocks zone is an area within about 10 kilometres of the granite, which is the primary sort of forming zone to form LCT pegmatites. Need to be what's called outboard of the granite, but within the mafic or the basalts and the dolerites and all that sort of stuff. You need to be in that terrain for those things to form. And it's a sort of a chemical sort of play, as well as a crustal play in these things. So we've got all the right tenure. These green circles around here, circles are tenements. And we've got roughly from end to end there, probably 60 kilometres of strike. Now, we've done a bit of work on this, and these brown dots in here is the dense geochemical sampling that we did in the last few months, and we got the results of those most recently. And I'll cover off on those things in a little bit. But as you can see up here, our primary anomalies here, where we'd actually done a lot of work before looking for gold, and we just mined that data set. There was 48 elements analysed for each sample, and historically no one really looked at the other 45 elements. They looked at arsenic, bismuth, and maybe telluride as pathfinders for gold. And we just looked at that data and looked at the lithium, beryllium, rubidium, cesium, and tantalum, and they all came up trumps. So we were very excited by that and did a lot of follow-up work. As you can see from some of the numbers that we're getting on the pecan, mesquite, hickory, and cherry area here, which is our primary focus, you can see the numbers we're getting, you know, sort of up to 6,000 ppm or 5,880 ppm rubidium versus background in the granites of 50. Cesium, you know, 221 ppm versus background of 3. Tantalum, 122 ppm in the lithium cesium tantalum. This is the C and the T versus background of 0.15. So our tantalum is, you know, roughly 1,000 times background. So, you know, it stands to reason that this is a very, very anomalous area and requires a lot of significant follow-up. So we've got about 19 targets at the moment, and we're looking at doing some more work on those as we go on. The primary focus, however, Mana. That's the 10 million tonne lithium deposit owned by Global Lithium, just up the road from us, and they're currently doing a drill out at the moment on that to prove up a bigger resource. Just looking at this, I apologise, this is a slightly old map because we sent this last week, but it's since been updated. But the playbook in the region around Mana is all the shaded areas that Alchemy has. Global Lithium there in the middle with the Mana deposit, and this pink area here, which is what we call the Kalkine granite. We think that is the controlling fertile granite in the region. We're not 100% sure because it's all quite new, but the geochemical anomalism of the area suggests that this may be the source for LCT pegmatites and maybe the formation of Mana at the moment. It's relatively new and the understanding is improving as we go. Last week, we won this tenement up here, which is, we announced to the ASX on Friday. And it's a very exciting development because that actually now starts to show you that we are actually in a very good, not just a neurology position, but we have a neurology position to Mana, but we also have significant anomalism, significant anomalies. We've got a great ground position, good chemistry, and the rest is up to the drill bit to decide what we have. And we're looking at starting that fairly soon. Just looking at the main anomalies on the new lithium targets in the middle there at cherry, hickory, mesquite, and pecan. As you can see, the primary area, and this was just because we had the most amount of data, that we've mapped pegmatites over here, and we've shown pictures of those, which I'll show next, over literally a 7 kilometre by 1.5 kilometre long trend. And it's very exciting that we've got that because no one had mapped any pegmatites there before. And this is what's generated the anomalism in the numbers I showed you previously. As you can see here, this is all the infill soil geochemistry we did. Again, it's a slightly old map because we've updated that since then on the previous map, but it just shows that there is significant anomalism at cherry and hickory themselves over literally a 2 kilometre by 1.2 kilometre zone there. And this is what we're going to be focusing on drilling there. The drilling will be focused initially on hickory because we have the most amount of information there and the most amount of structure, the most amount of anomalism. And it just stands to reason that we go from the easiest ground to understand first as a first drill program. There's a big alluvial channel that comes through here, so a river channel comes through, and that's why there's no real geochemistry that works there. It's all under a little bit of cover. So we're investigating the exploration opportunities there to actually go and assess that bedrock over there for additional pegmatites. There's no reason why it doesn't continue. As you can see, we've got 7 kilometres by 1 kilometre of anomalism and map pegmatites. We just need to assess where they are sitting under that channel. So I think there's a lot more to find here, and it's a very, very exciting point in time for the company. Just looking at the anomalism from the geochem that I was just showing you there, this is a sort of a blown up version of that. As you can see, the map pegmatites are here in green, the anomalism in lithium numbers alone. I could show lithium, rubidium, cesium, tantalum, but it'd make it a bit messy, but you can see that there's elevated values and there's 2 broad trends going on there. And as you can see, there's actually some areas in there where we've got no pegmatites, but we've got numbers. And so that sort of really is to be followed up with the drill program that will come next. The Kalkine granite, as I mentioned, which is what we think is the source. So we're right in the hot spot, right next to this. It's a great opportunity. We really haven't done any exploration up here besides ground truthing by walking the ground up here. But if you look at the sort of the scale on here, this area over here at Roe Hills, which is our project here, that's 10 kilometres long. So, you know, it's big areas to test and it's going to take time and a lot of patience, but we're very happy at the point we're at. Just looking at some of the rocks in here, we think a lot of these rocks are the right kind of rocks that we're looking at. This here down here in the southeast, the bottom right-hand corner is what we call an amazonite, which is a rubidium-rich plagioclase, and we think that's on the periphery of the system. This is the pegmatite model that people generally sort of use, is this sort of onion skin kind of arrangement, and we're quite happy with that. We think we're sort of on the outer edge, and the drilling may actually be able to go and try and test this in a zone. You know, as I said, it's the truth will be in the drill bit, and we intend to test it, and we're not going to die not knowing. Just looking again at the cherry and hickory anomalies, a lot of numbers on there, and feel free to look at these at your leisure. And you can see that just everything is anomalous. The numbers I was talking about before, 6,000 ppm rubidium, 221 cesium up the north end. We haven't even got to testing that with drilling yet. The drilling will be down here on hickory, where we've got the most consistent amount of structure and geology and numbers as well. And we'll look to do more drill programs, probably a few follow-up drill programs in here as time goes on to go and assess the whole area. Just looking sort of regionally, as I said, with the soil sampling earlier on, this was down the south end. So you're looking sort of 40 kilometers to the south of those anomalies at Cherry and Hickory here. And this is up to 60 kilometers south at Alder. The new prospects are called Red Oak and Alder. And as you can see, there's coincident beryllium, rubidium, tantalum, tin, and you know, a bit of spotty gallium, as well as lithium numbers in there as well. And these are all low level because they're soil samples, but it warrants an extreme amount of focus on this. We looked that we think that we're establishing basically a new lithium camp in this part of the world. It stands to reason that we've still got to test it. It may be sort of granite sands coming off this. There may be a number of reasons that these anomalies are there, but they're still big anomalies. And as you can see at Alder itself is 15 kilometers long by 5 kilometers wide. That's a big area. This is the sort of stuff that people IPO projects on single tenements, not just one part of a portfolio. So it's an enormous amount of ground, warrants an enormous amount of attention, and we think we're starting to be on the cusp of generating a new province for exploration for lithium for alchemy, which is very exciting. Just in terms of the belt, where we were looking at Coroni down there was down here. This is just a playbook of the people who are around us. As you can see in orange there, this is Breaker Resources and the Breaker JV with Mana. In green, it's St. Barbara, and red is Alchemy. And as you can see, we've got a very, very significant controlling position in the belt. It's roughly 1,200 square kilometres down at Coroni and another 500 square kilometres at Lake Rebecca. So it's a significant amount of ground, and largely, I would say, never ever been explored for lithium potential. Just looking at sort of some of the other just flicking through the gold stuff and some of the more regional projects. Obviously, this is the same area for the lithium anomalies up here. We have our gold deposit, KZ5, Taupo and Parmelia. It accounts for about 111,000 ounces. We don't want to do anything with that at the moment because it sits right next to the lithium, and we don't want to go and give a mine up a gold deposit and find that there's a lithium deposit right next door that we've missed. So we're really sort of stepping back and trying to understand this from a science-based perspective before we progress any of that. Just very quickly on the Superior joint venture and the Sandfire joint venture up north, all the stuff that's basically along the strike of DeGrussa copper mine. There's roughly been $15 million spent on this joint venture, of which we have a 20% free carried interest there. And Superior Gold are looking at mining Hermes and Hermes South at some point and trucking it up to the Plutonic mine, and we own 20% interest in that, free carried to a mining decision, and that could generate revenue, especially at high gold prices at the moment for Alchemy shareholders. In New South Wales, just very briefly, 3 projects that we got. The Yellow Mountain and Melrose area, which is high-grade copper and gold. Overflow, high-grade gold, base metals and zinc. And West Lynn, perhaps most importantly, which is nickel, cobalt and HPA, high-purity alumina. Just very quickly, I'll just jump over this slide in a second. Yellow Mountain and Melrose, very, very close proximity to Mineral Hill for Kingston Resources. Overflow is a pre-resource, and Overflow North has had very little exploration on it. So we're looking at getting on the ground there post-COVID to do some work soon. Yellow Mountain, as you can see, it's a big primary target there. It's a big chargeability anomaly. You can see some of the samples coming off the old mine here, grab samples at surface of up to 7% copper. They're not in situ, they're spoils from the mine, as you can see in the picture there, but it still shows you that it's a significant copper and lead sitting on surface around there as well, including 24 meters at 1% copper from surface and drilling. So it requires follow-up, and we're getting positioned to actually get on the ground there as soon as possible. Again, Overflow, just an envelope here showing you the resource of the high grades, 4.6 meters at 8 grams gold, 13% zinc. This really does sort of warrant additional follow-up and more understanding. It's structurally complex, and we're doing a lot of work and working that up at the moment and getting people on the ground. At West Lynn, this is the nickel cobalt HPA. It's a lateritic nickel. Obviously, this comes with reasonably high capex, but also we have HPA sitting on the top of it of 7 million tons at 21% alumina. That's using the sapphire glass or synthetic sapphire glass for your watches. and also battery anodes as well for lithium batteries, I believe, is coming up as a new technology. So, you know, very exciting part of the world. It has a resource. It just needs scale. So we could do more drilling. We can achieve more fore-end quality product by doing more metallurgy on this. But it's sort of sitting as just in the background at the moment, working that up as we progress all the lithium work in the foreground, which is taking precedence at the moment, but still very exciting nonetheless. So yeah, where are we at? We're doing a lot of work. We've drilled the Corona East drill program for gold. We've drilled the Gilmore Gold program just recently. We've done infill soils on the lithium targets at Pecan, Hickory, Cherry and Mesquite, and we're moving to RC drilling hopefully this month, waiting on advice from the drillers. And then we've done all the lithium soils as well. We've done heritage surveys at Yellow Mountain, tenement access agreements. There's tons going on, and hopefully sort of into Q4 that we'll be jumping onto RC drilling at Cherry and Hickory, and hopefully looking at a lot more information coming in there and trying to understand the LCT pegmatites. And then of course RC drilling on the high grade copper gold and in New South Wales. So a ton going on. We're very aggressive, and yeah, thank you for your time today. It's a very exciting development. Just one other side, just looking at where all the lithium projects are around there, and where we sit in comparison. So yeah, very dominant land position, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much, James. Thanks so much for sharing your presentation there. It definitely is a fast-moving space to be in, as we can see. So now moving on, we've got some very interesting questions that have been coming through from our audience now. So if I could move back to Stuart at Lithium Australia, if I could start with you with one of the questions that's come through, and they're asking, what are your views on the evolving use of social media by resources companies? What do you think about that?
Well, good question. A bit of a left field one, but so I think it's very important for people to use social media for promoting the business. It's definitely an opportunity in the fact that, you know, when you have information to keep the market informed about, sometimes it's not material enough for an ASX announcement, which is clearly where you have to you know, keep the market continuously updated for material things. But it's a great way of interacting with shareholders, and so yeah, for us, we've definitely seen an increase in our use across our 3 core businesses over the last 12 months.
And just sticking with you, Stuart, we've had another question, and someone's asking, we've seen significant shifts in the global battery industry. I'm sure everyone is aware of that now. Obviously, it's underpinned by the electric vehicle revolution. So how has this affected your business?
Yeah, look, significantly. I think if you look at what James and the rest of the exploration and mining industry is looking at here to underpin this, you know, severe supply constraint as the lithium-ion battery market grows, very much underpinned by the EV kind of revolution. For us, you know, we're in cathode active materials, so we're seeing a lot of support for our products from both a lithium ferrophosphate perspective, but we released this week also lithium manganese ferrophosphate, which is a variant of that cathode powder. In terms of recycling, we are seeing increasing interest in our methods and what we're doing, because yeah, there's a shift in legislation across the world in terms of the recycled content in lithium-ion batteries, led by the EU, and so yeah, everyone's going to need to have a kind of social ESG element to their business. So for us, we just see more demand, and we welcome it. We're at the right stage to take advantage of that movement.
And another one for you, Stuart. Someone is asking, what is Lithium Australia's strategy as far as investing in R&D is concerned?
Yeah, for us, I think we've, like a lot of junior companies, yeah, R&D is a big part of our world. So we'll always look to ensure we've got the best technology and we keep up to speed with the industry. I think there's been a shift in the last 12 to 18 months for the company in terms of where we spend our time between development activities and R&D activities. And so whilst R&D is still key for us, we are very keen to start commercializing the significant opportunities that we've been working on for the last 3 or 4 years. through to a point where we're generating cash flow for our shareholders. That's always our aim. Really, Rachel, it's about getting that balance between the R&D activities to stay ahead of the game, and the commercial development to ensure you can generate cash flow for these opportunities.
And Stuart, it's a big question these days, but looking at ESG, how is your company making sure it's meeting their ESG requirements?
Yeah, look, it's important for everyone, no matter what industry you're in. For us, we've got a business in Envirostream which went through that stops batteries going into landfill. So there's very few companies in the world that have the ESG credentials as Lithium Australia. But having said all of that, mapping out your carbon footprint, shortening supply chains is something we're constantly looking at, making sure we measure what our carbon footprint is today and what we think it's going to be in the future, and put mitigating actions in place like solar power or hydropower or something along those lines. Really, really important for us. We're in an industry that will, seeks to get to a zero carbon economy. So for us, we also need to look at our business units and ensure that we're doing as much as we can to meet that target. So it is part of our DNA, Rachel.
Excellent. Thank you for answering those questions for us. Now, James, if I could just go back to you, we've obviously got some viewers that have been looking very closely at the maps you were showing there in your presentation. Someone is asking, what is your favorite mining destination?
Oh, it's got to be Australia. There's a lot of institutional investors when I was in broking that spoke about Australia, and the easiest way to summarize it is there's no other country in the world, especially in Western Australia, where you can just drive up and start drilling. You go to the US, there's mountains, forests, all that sort of stuff. Western Australia is probably the best destination in the whole world for exploration, in that you can, it's open ground, not much clearing, really good heritage programs to dovetail in with the Aboriginal groups, to have a good relationship with them. As signed by, we're shown by the fact we just did 2 major heritage agreements last week with the Gagara and the Nyalpi Piniku people, and it's excellent. You can't beat it. It's you go offshore, it's infrastructure constrained, there's politics, there's obviously sort of jurisdictional risk and stuff like that. And Australia, in particular, Western Australia, has to be literally the best destination in the universe. So
excellent, I'm sure.
Very, very happy that we've got our project here.
Yes, I'm absolutely sure most of our viewers are going to be thrilled to hear your answer to that question. Now, looking at your background within the resources world, what, according to you, is the most important skill for a good mining engineer?
Oh, well, I think being able to listen to geologists would probably be the thing. It's a lot of my friends are mining engineers, and I'm a geologist by trade, but having the two work together is probably the best skill. You can't build a mine without good geological skill, and things can fall over pretty quickly if you don't do it the right way. Like there could be grade concerns, there could be geotechnical concerns, and all that sort of stuff. And you've got to assess that early on. And in particular with our drill program coming up, the first thing we're doing is trying to establish orientation with these LCT pegmatites, because if you can't get the orientation right, your future drill program is going to be it's not going to be particularly good quality, and you're going to end up spending time to go and fix all that, bringing the mining engineers in to go and assess that for open pitable opportunities when that comes. So a good quality for a mining engineer is geology is not simple, and geology doesn't always play games in a linear fashion. And so it's important for a mining engineer to have a geological bent and to listen to what nature is telling you, and the geologist is there to interpret what that is. And
Alchemy obviously has lots of different facets to it. What are your key focus areas for the next 12 months?
It has to be the lithium. The lithium has been a rocket ride. We found this in February. We walked out there for a look when we had a look at the geochem numbers, and we came across these green rocks that no one had ever seen before. We checked all the data. No one had mapped any of these things, and then we walked along it and mapped it for 8 kilometers, and that was just the start. And then we did more work down south. 60 kilometers on strike, we're still getting numbers. So it has to be the lithium focus. Obviously, it's a very dominant sector of the market. It garners a lot of investor interest, and it's also a really interesting commodity to look for. It's non-linear. You literally have to go and map this thing and step foot on it to find it. So the geophysics doesn't really work that great. Chemistry works well, but at the end of the day, it's boots on ground, and we've got them. and we're putting them on the ground at Caroni, and it's by far the lithium focus is the #1 focus for us right now. We do have gold, and gold is a second tier that we can do at the same time. So fortunately, we've got the access, we've got the right commodities, and good investor backing, as shown by the performance today, which is great and very humbling.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll draw a close to our Q&A section there for now. We will be able to take more questions from viewers via an email, which we'll be able to forward on to our two presenters today. But before we do end this webinar, I would ask if you could both unmute and switch on your videos and share a quick closing or any takeaway notes that you have for our audience today. Stuart, starting with you, if you could just summarize for us, please.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Look, again, thanks very much for everyone who's turned up to listen to the story today. It's been good to get some questions. I think for us, I'd encourage investors to think about the lithium industry a little bit different to the way we've thought about it in the past. Australia very much focuses on mining, and there's some great things clearly that we're doing there, as James has presented today. But that downstream processing is a massive opportunity for us here in Australia to onshore manufacturing and really get that value accretion from that sector. Recycling is just something we have to do. For us to commercialise that and continue our domination is very important for not only us as a company, but as a country. Better outcomes will come from that.
And over to you, James, if you would just like to bring our webinar to a conclusion.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you for everybody attending today as well. It's been most humbling. The really important thing that I see with the lithium sector is that what I can see on the news is in the incoming inquiries to a company that has not found any deposit yet, but has got some anomalism to go and test for it, is that the news is real. It's everything you see is the demand, the downstream, the potential for battery recycling and stuff like that. It's all real. It's from where we sit, it's incessant demand. And so it's very exciting to be exploring for a commodity that is such high profile. And yeah, if we happen to have a win, my question for the audience is, have a guess how many lithium deposits have been found that are undercover in Australia? And the answer is none. They've all been sticking out of the ground. So as far as I'm concerned, happy to be told otherwise. So, if we have a win on this, then we will actually found the first, and that would be very, very exciting. So yeah, watch this space.
Absolutely. Now, thank you so much to Stuart and James for joining us today. And on behalf of Kalkine Media, I would like to extend my gratitude for sharing your insights and for answering those questions, which I thought were great questions. Now, I'd also like to thank our audience for attending this webinar. I hope you did find it informative. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to delve further into equity and market updates, do visit us at our media site, www.kalkinemedia.com/au. You can also visit our equity research website, www.kalkine.com.au. Stay tuned with Kalkine Media for the upcoming InvestNest webinar series. You can also check us out on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And if you do have any more queries, our email ID is info@kalkinemedia.com. Stay apprised and invest wise. Now, thank you all once again for joining us on this webinar today. Have a good day.